I thought it was helpful to like think about like how long it's probably going to take to get to the like to your goals, because a lot of times like you have influences being like, oh, you'll get there immediately, and like that's just not realistic.
Yep, which is partly why it's important to have both interim goals and to look at, okay, if this is where I'm headed, what kind of steps do I need to take to get there, right? Especially in this field where it can feel like it's just magic. You know, Coco, Michael, could we see you, please?
I thought also it was super cool to know that like it kind of wasn't his plan to be in Chicago forever, and now that he's, you know, really like booking there and stuff, he like kind of found his niche without even realizing it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because at least from the way he talks, it doesn't at all sound like, to me, like he's settling. You know, like, well, no, I guess that's, it didn't feel like that to me at all. It felt like a very positive decision. And life happens, right? We make plans. What is the expression? Man plans and God laughs. So can I go ahead and back you up? Would you go ahead and relocate for me? Because I'd love to get this mask off. Thank you.
I wish I had known back when I was a musical theater major that New York really isn't your only option if you want to perform. Yeah, that I always had in my head, and I was like, I can't because it's too much pressure and I'm going to crack under the pressure. I wish I had known that. And there were fine, like Cleveland and Chicago. I thought you had to go to either New York or LA.
Which I guess is another advantage to having sophomore seminar. So we get to discuss these things, you know, while you're a sophomore and open up those possibilities.
Someone there has their mic on and it's creating an echo.
I just muted Adam. No problem. Well, and the internet connection has been really bizarre today. You froze a couple of times, Destiny, but not for very long. In my songs and arias class, one of the singers who's zooming in from China was performing. It wasn't a performance day, we were workshopping, but she froze, missed her intro, missed the first third of her song, and then it kicked in again. So Mercury is still in retrograde. It's Halloween. There's election coming up. Could life get any weirder? Probably.
Mercury retrograde is, and it's not going to stop for a long fucking time. And I'm over.
Me too, Destiny. I felt that.
Sorry. I looked at my horoscope the other day from like a professional. It's like, oh my God, my life is going to be a shit show for the rest.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about?
You kept freezing, Destiny, so it sort of popped in and out. We're talking about Mercury retrograde, among other things.
I know it's off topic, but what exactly does that mean? Because I'm not too into the horoscope scene.
Anyone want to share that? Ian is baffled. Destiny, are you frozen?
I'm here. It essentially means that in its orbit has completely thought by astrologists, especially the
Oh, Destiny,
for human beings.
You keep freezing. I don't know if she's coming through to you, Coco. Here, yeah, that's what's happening for me.
Everyone's fine.
phone was having really bad Wi-Fi issues this morning. I had to switch like 3 times.
Yeah. So generally when things are going awry and are going backwards, people say, well, Mercury's in retrograde. So usually it can be harder to complete things when Mercury's in retrograde. A friend of mine this morning said that we're going out of Mercury retrograde on election day. Hopefully. So
I think a lot of people have like a bad interpretation of Mercury in retrograde because it can actually be beneficial as well. It just depends on your own horoscope and stuff.
well, and also it's like life has an ebb and a flow, right? And so it's really about being in sync with that. That if we're in, that there are times that we need to slow down, there are times when things need to speed up, there are times, it's like another astrological thing is that on the new moon is a good time to be starting new projects, and the full moon is a time to bring them to fruition. But those are all sort of general patterns that do interact with people individually. Anything else about Tommy Thurston? Or takeaways from his sharing with us?
I'm glad that he talked about finding an agent and kind of the process with that, and that he said like that he wishes he got an agent sooner.
Okay. On next Friday, November 6th, Sean Mormon, who's been a company manager on Broadway for the national tour of Book of Mormon, for the national tour of Wicked, for the national tour of Billy Elliot, who worked here for a long time before he started doing all that amazing stuff, will be talking to us. So he'll be visiting us next Friday. And so he can talk to us from several thresholds, from the performer talking about what tours are like, because I know some of you are interested in tours. He can talk about that from both what the actors have to deal with and what technicians have to deal with. So I think he's going to be a really good resource for us. Okay, and he's a great guy. So we are launching into cover letters and thank you letters. There are postings in your files. I don't know if anybody saw those, of a cover letter template and thank you letters. So let's talk a bit about what is a cover letter? Why do we care these days? And what does it, well, let's just start there. What is a cover letter and who cares? Ian and then Nikki.
A cover letter is kind of like a supplementary material to a resume.
Okay.
And basically what it does is it creates more of a personal touch to the resume, because, you know, using your own words, and it's getting the chance to explain why you think you deserve a shot. Because, you know, you have your resume, you have your list of skills and experiences. The cover letter is basically a chance to take those jobs and experience so that you can.
And you froze, Ian. The cover letter is what? We missed that part.
Oh, take the skills and jobs you have on your resume and explain shot.
So Nikki, thank you, Ian. Nikki?
A cover letter is great because some jobs don't require you to write on and sets you apart. I know some jobs do require it, but some do not, and it's out and be like, job, and here's why I should.
Okay. So that's why are you the perfect person for this job? So it's not a gigantic sales pitch, but it does help them connect the dots and give a greater sense of who you are. I'm going to try screen sharing and see. I'm hoping, what do you see on your screen? Oh, it's gone.
I mean, I can see a part of the cover letter.
So what I'm trying to share is also keeping all of you on screen. But can you see the whole cover letter?
We basically have the screen of the entire screen of your
So you got everything.
everything. We can see all of your open files.
Okay.
But don't worry, we can still see the cover template perfectly just fine.
Okay, that's the main thing I want you to see. And just not get distracted by all the other stuff. So, and I like this template because, I don't know if I can get rid of the bar that's in the middle of it, or if you see that even. Because it just clearly lays out in paragraphs that you're addressing someone. You talk about the job you're applying for, where you where you heard about it, why you should get the interview. So that first little paragraph, it's interesting because they're like combining the whole letter in a way. So you're giving them a taste of why you're perfect for the job, even in the opening paragraph. Why? Why are you doing that in the opening paragraph? Don't raise your hand, just jump in because I can't see all of you.
I feel like it's important right from the beginning to be like, hey, this is why I'm good for the job, or they're just gonna like, they don't want to wait till the very end of your cover letter to say, oh, okay, this is why you're good. They want to know it right from the get-go, whether they should set it off to the side or keep reading.
Does that make sense? So then you're backing that up, talking about your qualifications. Don't list your resume, they can see that. But help them understand your experience, the most relevant experience, and how those apply to the experiences of this job. So in that job posting, they will talk about specific things they're looking for, right? Address those. And if you need to, then to add another paragraph to cover those qualifications. Maybe you discuss 2 separate experiences or 2 separate skill sets you have. So you're using that job description to shoot off, but it's also important to keep this brief, right? So it gets to the point and it's clear. And that you're addressing qualifications that they're asking for and using your resume to support that. And then in the last paragraph, thank them for their time and attention and how you expect to follow up with them. Also mentioning the resume if it's attached. And if not, tell the employer you'll send your resume upon request. This is important, and it's at the bottom of this template. Do not use the same basic letter. Why not?
Because it's similar to a resume, it's going to vary between jobs, which skills are the most important.
Okay. And so we don't want to feel like you're just filling, we don't want to feel like we're one of 50 people you're applying for. Even if that's true, we don't want to feel like that. Okay, so that's important. So we want to know why we caught your eye. Now, the same thing is true in a cover letter or a letter that you're sending to the prototype, the person that you want to do the prototype interview with. Whether it's first contact with them and saying, I got your name from my aunt who suggested, because I'm doing this assignment and I'm really interested in who you are and what you're doing. And this is why. Does that make sense? So since you have access to this template, I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing. But this template is in your files. So one of the things that you'll want to do with your prototyping, if it's initial contact, then they need to know where you got their name from, why you're interested in them specifically, and be clear about what it is. I'd just love to have a conversation with you about this. That's one reason why I wanted Tommy to visit us when he did. And so I focused that interview on Chicago. He could have talked about a lot of different things. But I was interested in why Chicago, what are the advantages of Chicago, what kept him there? Did he ever, or does he still see this as a stepping stone to New York? Why? Why help them focus the conversation? Why not just let them talk? So tell me about yourself. Tell me about your career. Why is that perhaps not the most useful question?
It makes it easier on them so that they don't have a million different opportunities,
A million different options for ways to answer that. Well, okay, I can answer that a million ways. What else? In terms of helping them and helping you.
I think it would make it more of a conversation if you have a focus point talking with them. Because I mean, obviously you want them to do more of the talking, but you also want to kind of stay focused. Plus, then you would get more benefits from it, I think.
And that conversation, say with Tommy, could have directed questions about working out of Chicago rather than just what happens in Chicago. Could have been focused on, well, how do you find non-theatrical jobs? What's that process like for you? What resources would you recommend? We could have a whole other conversation on living situations in Chicago. How do you find a place to live? What's the cost of living? How much money do you think I should have before I move there? What do you like about living in Chicago? Is this making sense? So I'm going to ask Sean to really focus on both, he's worked Broadway and touring, so some comparing and contrasting of those experiences, as well as recommendations for people aspiring to be on Broadway or to go on tours. If you've already made initial contact, because one of the things I sent Tommy a slate of questions, and he was really grateful for that because it helped him, it gave him a chance to think about some things. So that changes the conversation too. So then your follow-up letter would start how? What's the first thing you want to do?
Thank them.
Yep. Thank them for their willingness to talk with you. And as I promised you, here's the list, the slate of questions, or the just these are the kinds of things that I'm interested in, and this is why. And I really appreciate your taking the time. So that letter can be pretty short. Always to give them a sense of how long it's going to be. About 30 minutes, about 45 minutes. And you can also include, if you in your slate, here's the slate of questions that I told you I would send you. And of course, if other things come up as you're sharing with us, as you're sharing with me, I would love to hear whatever it is you have to share. But this will help orient our conversation. And then, as Nick had said, making sure that we thank them. In lots of ways, letter writing is considered a lost art, I think. You know, we're so used to texting and communicating that way that even in emails, very rarely is there any kind of greeting. It's just jumping right into whatever it is you're talking about. So these letters having a little more having more structure, not just a little more structure, having more structure is important. Questions?
So are we sending them, so the cover letter is for like asking them if they would want to talk, and then
that depends on what
Thank
kind
you.
of contact you've already had with them, Morgan.
Okay.
If like I said, if it's someone that your aunt recommended, said, oh yes, we were great friends in college and she's doing these wonderful things, you definitely need to talk to her. Here's her email address. Or your aunt says all of that, but then says, I'll reach out to her. And
Okay.
I'll let you know when I have. So you get, my aunt said I should talk to you. She said she would send you an email. I don't know if that's happened or not. Or your aunt has gotten back to you to say, I sent the email.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's why if you haven't made contact with them at all before, then your letter needs to cover that. You need to introduce yourself.
Okay.
That you're a sophomore at Bowling Green State University, that what you're studying, and why you're interested in talking to them specifically. If you've already made contact through phone or email or text, and they've already agreed to do the interview, then the follow-up letter is making sure you have those questions. If you've got the initial contact letter, don't send that. Don't send those questions yet.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to inundate them if they're not going to have time. So then you'd
Right.
still send then afterwards, and that once they've responded to your first email, then you'd send the follow-up email that has your slate of questions. Is that clearer? I think everybody froze right after I asked that question. Thumbs up if that's clearer, please. Okay, thank you. Other questions? What I would like us to do then is take, it's 5 till 1. What if we take 20 minutes and write a cover letter? Whether it can be that initial letter to someone you're making contact with, it can be that follow-up letter that has the questions. It could be for a job or an internship. In which case, you know, you've been looking at those websites. If there's something that you found, a job description, and this is just practice, but it's targeted practice so that you really get to see what kinds of problems you're having or what kinds of questions come up. Questions about that? Make sure you read it over for spelling and grammar. So, any questions? Going once, going twice. Yes, Nick.
Do you want us to email it to you right after we do it?
I want us to talk about them. Okay? And see what kinds of questions you're having, and then while you're doing that, I'm going to check Canvas. If I don't have a discussion board for those, I'll set one up so that you can share them that way so other people can see them. Okay? So I will see you at 1:15, and yeah, this will stay on. I will be here if you've got questions, and I will pause the recording. Okay, we're recording again. And so I was talking about posting on, that everyone needs to post to get the 20 points for the cover letter, thank you letter. And if you want to post a letter and get feedback on it, great, go ahead and do that. I'm not requiring it. What I do want is to make sure that you're thinking about this stuff and what it entails and the challenges of it, or what's easy about it for you. Okay, but for 20 points, please don't just say, oh yeah, it's pretty easy, or I hate this. Okay, that's worth 2 points, but that's all that tells me. Okay, because I want you really thinking about these as tools that you can use, because you're going to need to reach out to people. You're applying for a job, you're going online, you're going to need to send them something to get on their radar screen, right? And if it's just generic, then why are they going to really be interested in you if you're not really interested in them?
I'm sorry, I just need to put this out there. Did anybody else come across like the issue of not as fluent with confidence? Like when I was first doing like some research on other cover letters to kind of like give me a different route in which to write them, I came across this one, and it was just like the complete and utter confidence with this is very prominent. Like I have it pulled up right now. It says, looking for a hard worker and a hardworking and enthusiastic actress, search no further because I'm ready for that job. Like it started off with that line, and then just like, please accept this letter of interest along with its attachments and resume and portfolio regarding your internship. Like the difference, it's and then it's just the following up of like, I absolutely think this job and internship would be a great opportunity, but then it's just like, it's clear where one person is trying flattery, whereas the other person is just really confident in their abilities. And I thought that was like the craziest thing to me.
Well, so what are you learning from those? Do you buy those? If you got those letters, would that really impress you?
Well, I mean, I think both are good traits, but like, I would definitely take the confidence over the person who's trying really hard to be accepted.
To me, one of the things that comes up is, do you feel either of them are sincere?
100%, but in different ways.
Okay, because when you describe them, they don't sound sincere to me. You know what I mean? So that even the confident one, I kind of go, no, I don't know. If I buy, if I'm interested in someone that's that, I am the best thing since sliced bread. If you want someone who can juggle 18 different tasks while standing on their head and singing Dixie, I am your person. Go, oh, I gotta see this just for the comic relief, but I don't know that I want to hire this person.
But
You know
that's
what I
just
mean?
the opening line. That's the thing that threw me off. It was just the whole, all right, you come in confident and ready to just like take on the world and you have evidence to back it up with. But the difference between that person and then me, who's just working with flattery at this point, is because they have experience, I don't. So
But that's
that's
part of
why,
part of what I want you to look at, and why I was talking about transferable skills, is because I want you to look at what, yes, you don't have 25 years of experience, probably any of you, right? Because none of you are 25 years old. There's that. And it isn't trying to pretend that you have experience you don't. It's helping them to understand the experience that you do have, because you want to find a job that's appropriate for you. You know, rather than I am ready to star on Broadway today. Just, you know, well, great if you really are, but if you're really not, where are you? Nikki?
When I did my report on comedic writing, I looked at an interview of Jen Spira, who is a writer for Stephen Colbert. And one of her biggest tips is to not try to be funny on your cover letter or resume, because a lot of comedy. She's like, if it doesn't speak for itself, then they're not going to pay attention to your resume. If you know. So like your cover letter and resume just needs to be very like, just sincere and earnest, like you said, like genuine interest in the job and genuinely why you're a good candidate for it.
And if you've got computer skills, you've got people skills. And that's one of the things that a lot of times people working in theater have a lot of skills they don't realize. Organizational skills, time management skills, people skills, working with people, working on teams, collaboration. And one of the things that Sean even has talked about, because with Book of Mormon, they've hired a lot of young kids who didn't go to college, and a lot he finds that they don't know how to do their taxes. They don't know how to collaborate and work with people. They were homeschooled, and they're going straight into a show. So part of it is make a list for yourself of what you are capable of, and realize it's not bragging if you're just helping someone understand what skill sets you have. That's important. Does that make sense? And part of that is learning confidence in what you're capable of doing and being an advocate for yourself. And that's another nice thing about prototyping, because then you're not trying to sell yourself to anybody. You're not trying to convince them of anything. You're literally having a conversation and getting to know them, and consequently getting to know more about the kinds of work that they do that interests you. Other questions or comments?
I guess for me, when I was doing mine, I was doing like the second like email, like, oh, okay, here's the questions and all that good stuff. And when I was thinking about it, I realized how much of my questions already connect to each other. So I guess I didn't struggle with it. It was just trying to find a way to frame a question. I wasn't repeating myself with other questions was
example?
kind of challenging.
Could you give us an example or two, Alexis?
Yeah. So, my interview's on Monday, so I was like thinking about it a lot, and so it's kind of the idea of how they all play off one another. So this person is a English and theater teacher at Springfield High School, and so it was kind of the idea of like coming into it.
Can you give me specific questions? That's going to be a lot easier to address. These two questions seem too similar to me. That's going to be, because right now it's so abstract.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I guess I'm still trying to figure out questions because of that. Because it's like, did you come to that high school wanting to teach English, or things? I don't know. It's just kind of the idea of like, I phrase one question, but you can answer that question in several other questions. So.
Right, but that's okay, because you may end up not asking all those questions if they get addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask yes or no questions. Why?
Because they can't go forward, and it stops it. It's like improv. Don't say like no.
So how did you end up becoming an English and theater teacher?
Mm-hmm.
And that may open up a whole lot of other things. Then you've got some secondary questions, and if she's looked them over, she may answer them all even within that first question, and that's okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then one favorite thing that's always sort of a go-to for me is, and something like this especially, what are your favorite things about this work? What are your least favorite things, or what do you find most challenging? What advice would you give to someone who's considering doing what you do? The way I put it to Ashley yesterday, here's Ashley Brown, but there's already an Ashley Brown in Equity who played Mary Poppins on Broadway. So she's going by Ashley Edler. She talked to Jeff Studio yesterday, and she's wonderful. But one of the questions I had for her was, knowing what you know now, and she's 33, she said, what advice would you give? How would you encourage someone to get the most out of their last 2 years at Bowling Green since you went here? Or if you were starting over, what advice would you give your 22-year-old self? Is this helping? What got you into that job? What keeps you there? And this, when I was interviewing people for my dissertation, Alexis, it was funny because I was breaking things down a lot. I was looking, okay, well, what's your process of how do you approach your vocal process, singing? Because I was interviewing actors, singer, dancers. How do you approach your physical process? How do you approach your emotional acting process? How do you approach putting them together? And some people, I remember someone specifically said, it's like you just keep asking, you just keep asking me the same questions over and over, was the way they were receiving it. What I discovered was, it was people who directed or taught were the clearest, who could go, oh, well, my vocal process, that I do this way. This is my physical process, and this is the way I put them all together. So even if you feel like you're asking really discreetly different questions, they may be received as all the same question. So don't get bent out of shape about it, but that's also the kind of thing, if you want, post it on this discussion board and get some reactions from people. That's part of why I want this discussion board on cover letters and thank you letters. One, so you're not just hearing from me, and two, so you do have a forum and a place for getting feedback. Yeah, Nikki?
I guess I have a question. This is more of a technical one. I'm having the hardest time trying to find like a good opening sentence for my cover letter so that it's not like too abrupt but also gets to the point.
What's your focus? Who are you writing a letter to?
I'm just doing the one for the Saturday Night Live internship because I already contacted my person I'm interviewing, so I figured I'd do an internship one.
Okay.
And yeah, it'd be a great fit for the 2021, 2022 writing internship, but I don't know what's a good way to like start. Because the meat of the letter is like fine, like I have my content, but it's like transitions are tough.
Right. Anybody got ideas? Ways to start a letter? One thing to look at is what attracted you to that posting, so that you're not just going, well, I love Saturday Night Live, so of course I have to, but why you, why that? I was excited to see that you are looking for interns because might be one way to get there.
I got you. Okay. That is a good, thank you. That's a good opening.
And it's not that they're, anything that seems like a formula, okay, it's a place to start, but then tweak it however it serves you. Anybody have any other ideas along those same lines, or what another good way to start? Make sure that you're addressing what the posting has. And that, because what do we want to know? We want to know that you read the description. We want to know that you're a good match and why you think you're a good match. And not just because you're the best thing since sliced bread, right? That's too generic. And so depending on the job, your enthusiasm may really come in handy or not. We may not care about your enthusiasm depending on what the job is. So it's important to know that putting your best foot forward is not bullshitting and is not sucking up, and acknowledging that you know that you're understanding the job requirements and why you're suited to them is not just about placating someone and pulling the wool over their eyes. Partly because the last thing you want to do is to get a job you're not really suited for. If it means you can't show up and be yourself. Now, that said, we all have many sides, right? And you want to foreground, and we foreground different sides at different times. That's what actors do, I believe. So we're always adjusting our behavior, all of us are. So how do you find a job where those adjustments are not don't suck the life out of you? Ideally, they can even feed you if it's work that you love to do. Which is partly what teaching does for me. It's sort of like, I think I may have told you, I think I've missed one class in the 20 years I've been here because of illness. Partly because almost however I'm feeling, I always perk up and I love being here. So we don't have much time left. So thank you letters. What do they need to cover? Any ideas? It's not rocket science. I know. But I wasn't saying that I come when I'm sick. And what's really funny is I have not been blowing my nose or sneezing this morning at all until I took off my mask here. So So I've not been cavalier about my health, but thank you, Bug. Thank you letters. Nikki.
I'm looking at the outline, and it's like basically thanking them for their time and explaining why you're grateful for their time, and a future. Just kind of a good way to close off that interview that you've made with them.
And so so you're looking at what I put in the files on Canvas about thank you letters. So that information is there for you too. Okay. Don't be afraid to let it be simple. That's true of both of these. You know, yes, you want them to be thorough, but they need to be short. You're not going on forever. You need to be clear. And you need to be yourself. You know, I mean, so it's really just a sincere thank you. And even a mention, I was especially interested, or you surprised me with this, or, you know, something that's there again has a personal touch of why was that interview especially useful, fun, interesting for you? And then if you'd like to keep in touch, if, you know, if did you talk about that, you know? Is this useful? Is this helping you? What I'm hoping that it does is that it makes you less afraid of this stuff. You know, because then the only way to do that is to jump in and try it. So in that respect, I would encourage you to post a letter in the discussion board. And as always, the best version you can think of, and it's okay if you feel stuck and it feels like it's a mess, but it's what you can come up with right now. That's okay too, and you can get feedback. But it's really, we only get better at things by trying them. And then when we do, if you send applications out for 5 internships, you're liable to get better at it. Right? But if we're so afraid of that first one that we can't even, that we get stuck there, then we're missing opportunities. And one of the things I'd encourage you to do is write down what are you good at? What of your experiences, what do you know you're good at? And making a list of that so that you do have something to draw from. You have specific computer skills. They come in really handy for an awful lot of things. What are your people skills like? Are you a strong leader? Are you a good listener? Do you deal really well with detail? Are you a big picture kind of person? Just help us understand who you are. If it's the prototype letter, help us understand why you want to talk to us, what your interests are, and why us specifically, not just, well, and you act, so I figure, what the hell? Why not interview you? You're there. Well, gee, that's really going to make me want to talk to you, right? So what specifically interests you about me? And what do you want to let us know about you and what your goals are and why? Because that's also going to help us understand why you chose help them understand why you chose them. Any questions? We have 1 more minute. Thanks for showing up, Adam. Nope, we're good. All righty, next week. strategies for getting the most out of major events, and I hope to know a lot more about exactly how that's being run. Okay, so we'll move forward from there, and have a great week. Vote, please vote, please
I
vote.
do have a question about major event. Is
Yes.
that due? Is that actually due next week?
It's not due next week. I want you making notes. Let me look. I need to talk to Steve about how this is formatted.
Okay, because I saw it was due next week, and I saw like you need 10 acting performances that you need to see, and I was like, holy shit, I don't have that.
No, it's not. Even the due reflection Tate assessment paper, which is also in Canvas right now, isn't due till the 10th of November.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
And 10 acting things is 3 minutes each. So if you're looking at 10 acting audition packages, they're 3 minutes each.
I also have a question about major event.
Yes.
It says attendance is tomorrow at 9 a.m.
No, so sorry, that's me. I need to look at that and update that because that's obviously those are old dates.
Oh, what are the actual dates then?
The actual date of major event is November 7th.
November 7th. And
The first Saturday in November.
and it's going to be
This for the first time, it's all going to be virtual. It's all going to be websites to go and look at.
and they're going to send out an email with the links or
Yes.
Okay.
I will get that from Steve.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Pumpkin Thanksgiving play.
Yes, and be sure you need to sign up for that by 3 o'clock. So that's important.
Is that tonight? Is that also a web performance?
Yes. Yes and yes. It's tonight and tomorrow.
Okay.
So I think Nick, you said that the window is like from 8 o'clock tonight till 10 o'clock tomorrow.
10 o'clock tomorrow, I believe.
Okay.
I feel so stupid. I did not realize that major event was an actual event. I thought the assignment, you wanted us to go see 10 different acting things like throughout the semester. I was like, I don't have time for that.
Nope.
I got you.
No, it is an actual event that you will take part in as a junior and as a senior. That's why I want you observing it. And up until this year, it has been on that Saturday, and you've had to go and watch people's auditions or portfolio presentations.
That makes me feel a lot better. Okay. I was born a blonde. I can't help it.
No, I'm glad you asked, because if you're confused about it, and obviously I screwed up in terms of not updating the form, so I need to look at that.
No,
So,
you're fine.
no, I'm glad you brought it up, because if you have the question, trust me, someone else does too. So that's always good. Now, any other questions? All righty. Happy Halloween. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Do you have any questions, or this is okay for you? So is that making more sense now? Good. All righty. If you have any questions, just give me a holler.